This is the Orioles Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Baltimore Orioles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday afternoon. My name is Luke Slabaugh here on the Locked On Orioles Postcast. We are breaking down the Orioles' 3-1 loss at the hands of the Toronto Blue Jays here on Sunday. I am the post-game show host all year long. As a reminder, your regular Locked On Orioles podcast programming is still going on 5 days a week. Connor Newcomb still hosts that. He is the head honcho here in charge. I fill in the gaps with a reaction episode after each game this year. So for the next 6 months during the week, you'll get 2 shows per day. Unfortunately, not the result that O's fans and Birdland were looking for at the hands of the Blue Jays and right-hander Chris Bassett. I want to thank you again for listening on the Locked On Podcast Network or watching on YouTube as I see you all filing in right now into the comments section. Please let me know what you think of the show, some thoughts on today's game, anything you would do differently in terms of lineup construction, roster moves, plenty of news to break down through these first 4 games of the season. Disappointing to end this series with a split after seeing some incredible offensive performances in game 1 and 3 and some sparkles from the rotation out of Zach Eflin, and then some relievers with positive performances as well. We'll get into that a little bit, particularly Brian Baker with 4 strikeouts and going 1 2/3 scoreless to end this game. But the first thing we're talking about, of course, it was the major league debut of Tomoyuki Sugano, and it was a mixed bag.
This is what you'll be talking about.
One of the more anticipated Orioles debuts in recent memory because right-hander Tomoyuki Sugano has a lot of experience and a decorated career in Japan heading into this 1-year, $13 million contract. He's 35 years old, and the expectation from GM Mike Elias in the front office was that Sugano could make an impact very quickly and slide into the middle of the rotation, be a reliable innings eater, pitch to contact, and help this rotation develop. We got a little bit of that, but it started out not so great. I would chalk this first inning up to jitters. His most used pitch, more than 40% of the time, is the splitter. And Sugano started with 5 straight balls to open the game and walking Bo Bichette, then a couple of hard-hit lineouts, then a double given up to Andres Jimenez, and a 2-run single to George Springer. Eventually closed that inning with a strikeout on a 93-mile-an-hour fastball. But 20 pitches laboring through that first inning and only 11 strikes. He really did struggle with the first pitch strikes early on. The big news is that even before the bottom of the 5th inning started, as he was warming up, Sugano threw 1 pitch and then looked down at his hand and started to move it around. He leaves the game, the Orioles are now saying, with cramps in that right hand. My first thought, besides cramps, was also just tendonitis. When you've got someone making his major league debut, we don't know the weight program or the workout regimen that he was on leading up to his major league debut. But if you are tense for that long, that time, depending on how you're sitting or resting in the dugout, I didn't really know what to think, but he didn't go into the tunnel immediately, they said on the broadcast. So the Orioles are chalking it up to hand cramps and probably a very minor short-term injury to deal with. And this is why pitching depth is so important. Makes the acquisition of Cody Petit yesterday all the more important. And the Orioles bullpen, for their part, picked up Sugano in a really great way. Right-hander Matt Bowman entered, got all the time he needed to warm up. Chevy Chase native. Former St. Louis Cardinal Rule 5 darling was on 4 teams last year, and he was called up today with Albert Suarez placed on the injured list with right shoulder inflammation. So Bowman and Baker combined to stop the bleeding as much as they could in this 3-1 loss to the Blue Jays. Final line on Sugano: 4 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 4 hits, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout. 73 pitches, 45 of those were strikes. Cionel Perez, a little bit of blip on the radar as well, gave up his first home run in 104 outings, and it wasn't great. Tyler Heineman, if you looked up backup catcher in the dictionary, you would find the Toronto Blue Jays catcher there. Hadn't homered at the big league level in 6 years. And he took a hanging slider at 81 miles an hour out to left field. So a mixed bag from Sugano. Hopefully he doesn't skip a turn in the rotation, but they'll have an off day Tuesday after the home opener to hopefully get his routine back on track. Pitching, bit of a mixed bag. Hitting is a whole other story, and I think that comes down to the turning point of today's game. The Orioles had opportunities to drive runners in and whiffed many, many times.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Not Jorge Mateo's game. Chalk this one up to the top of the 4th inning. Ryan Mountcastle had made it to second after a really sharply hit single, his actually hardest hit ball in his major league career at 117 off the bat. Ramon Urias at first, and then Mateo hits into a 6-4-3 double play. The first ground ball double play that the Orioles head into all season, and that illustrates a bigger problem. The team goes 0 for 7 with RISP today, and they left 9 men on base. Not going to win games that way. They did have 9 hits, and they made Chris Bassett work 106 pitches over 6 innings. Got to think about manager John Schneider's routine there for Toronto, or his mindset. But they did have a glorified bullpen game yesterday when the O's stuck it to him. So Bassett needed to carry the Blue Jays on his back, and he sure did. But the larger problem here, of course, is that the Orioles could not put the ball in play and drive people in when they needed to. The only run that they got was on a wild pitch, and we're going to talk about that coming up after the break. But first, another surprise. We are 4 games into this season after a series split, and this loss 3-1 to the Toronto Blue Jays. And there's already a trade rumor brewing. Some national columnists already stirring the pot. After 1 series and 4 games north of the border, the Orioles might be looking long-term, and it's hard to put the puzzle pieces together as this team looks to contend and make the playoffs. Again, Pacoda projecting them to win 87 games and take the AL East. But there is just one rumor that came up today, and we'll talk about it after this break. But first, it is time for ad copy. March Madness, well underway. We are going into the Final Four. We'd like to present this show brought to you by FanDuel. You can get in on the action like never before, because right now new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories to who Kevin Willard's next team is going to be. God, now that was news today. You know that meme where the guy's staring at the mirror and he's pointing at it and he's like, get in there and make it about you. Villanova head coach Kevin Willard. It's going to be hard to say. But I've got my eye on the games right now. I was watching the Tennessee-Houston game as it was going on. I don't believe that's gone final yet. It was a casual 7-point possession game at half, and I believe the Vols are climbing back in. I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee for about 3 years. I know Rick Barnes pretty well. Actually got to talk to Kelvin Sampson during COVID. We were doing a feature story a long time ago. But this could be one of the more like boring Final Fours yet, because all the 1 seeds could still make it. And what is one shining moment going to be this year? Is it just going to be a bunch of fadeaway jumpers and 1 seeds cutting down nets? I digress. FanDuel app is simple and it's easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly and there's no waiting around, no shenanigans like that. So visit FanDuel.com and get it on the college hoops action all tournament long. This message brought to you by FanDuel. I am not going to play the player of the game animation, and pretty easy to see why when there are no official RBIs in the box score on offense. Again, a 3-1 loss we're talking about. Orioles at the hands of the Toronto Blue Jays in this series finale and a 2-2 series split. However, I think it's worth talking about Ryan O'Hearn. Great at-bats, perfect day at the plate, 2 for 2 with a walk. First at bat against Chris Bassett, works the count full, opposite field single. and then goes first to third on Tyler O'Neill's single, challenging the arm of Alan Roden. When I think of Ryan O'Hearn, he's got the build of a power guy. He doesn't seem like a particularly fast runner, but he had such a good jump and acceleration turning around second that he really did dare Roden to throw a 92-mile-an-hour bullet to third and beat it out by a few inches. Then, with that heads-up base running, he scores on a wild pitch with Cedric Mullins at the plate, and that was the only run that the O's could get across today against Bassett and the Blue Jay staff. So he was lifted for Ramon Laureano, pinch hitting in the eighth, and a 2-for-2 day with a walk at the plate for Ryan O'Hearn. Only one strikeout through 17 plate appearances this year for Ryan O'Hearn. Now, he had a career low walk rate last season, 14%, which is huge out of someone who profiles as a power hitter. We haven't seen those numbers leap to the way that you would want a number 4 hitter or middle of the order hitter to do. But as someone who's followed this guy a career for a long time, even dating back to when he was in Kansas City, a lot of fans had written him off in KC. He had a pretty interesting rookie season, showed some power, and then COVID happens and he was relegated to this weird utility pinch hit, irregular type of role under Mike Matheny. And it seems like his confidence was shot and the fans' faithfulness to him in KC was lacking as well. So he was the perfect change of scenery candidate in Baltimore and has broken through really well. And he does profile really well as a middle of the order hitter if he can reach his potential. What makes this even all the more fascinating, I'm looking at a report today from Bob Nightingale of USA Today that Mike Elias and the squad in the front office have made Ryan Mountcastle available in trade talks. This is a report where Nightingale is citing sources. And remember, it is Bob Nightingale. So this could very well be opposite day, and Mountie might be looking at it an extension. Really don't know. You could go either way, 50-50. What makes this interesting, one, is the timing. Kobe Mayo has been sent down to AAA Norfolk to work on his swing, and he's there right now. Gunnar Henderson, I believe, hit a home run today as well for the Norfolk Tides. And Mountcastle is under control through the end of next season. So a team looking for right-handed thump may not have to part with a whole lot when they have 1 year left guaranteed on his contract after this season. I'm not advocating for that at all. I don't think that should be discussed at all until the trade deadline. And again, if you are competing at this time and you're expected to win your division or compete for a wild card spot, that is not the guy that you want on the trade market. Again, he's making contact at the hardest rate yet. He's made some really good defensive plays, especially today. A nice little lineout catch he made. So interesting report. The timing is questionable. Mayo is waiting in the wings. O'Hearn has made an interesting platoon option there at first base. And long term, with the bats that are in the Orioles organization, Adley Rutschman, of course, at catcher, he's been DHing, could also fill in at first base. Jordan Westberg in a pinch could fit in at first base, although his profile's probably better at second base. If Samuel Basayo knocks at the door later this year, and then you have a logjam, Gary Sanchez, Adley Rutschman, Sam Basayo, and then Ryan O'Hearn at first, you could see the logjam starting to form, but it's way too early to be getting into that. And I'm sure Connor will have more thoughts on that as the week progresses. We're going to wrap things up. I want to respect your time here on this Sunday. Again, we're talking about a 3-1 loss to Toronto in this series finale. Plan for tomorrow, it's the O's home opener. They have moved first pitch up by 30 minutes to 2:35. There is apparently some inclement weather near the Bay coming that way, and so they want to get this game in officially before anything can make plans go sideways. It should be left-hander Cade Povich starting the home opener against left-hander Sean Newcomb. You might remember that name from 2018. He almost had a no-hitter with the Braves, went 8 2/3 against the Dodgers before giving up a single to Chris Taylor. He was in the Andrelton Simmons trade with the Angels a few years prior to his major league debut. So the pregame festivities and all of that are happening before 2:30. I believe there are some Maryland Terrapins basketball players throwing out the first pitch and a bunch of different ceremonies. Parking lots open, I think, more than 3 hours before first pitch there at Camden Yards. So it should be a fun day. Full disclosure, due to prior commitments, I will be moving around quite a bit tomorrow. And I will likely not be able to get to this studio by 6:30. 6:37, maybe at the latest. Now, with the original first pitch time, that would have worked all well and good. Probably could have made it right after the game. As for this new first pitch time, unless there is a huge weather delay or there's, some developments where the game goes longer or it's, washed out, I will probably set this stream for 6:30 or 7 tomorrow, and I won't be able to make it immediately after for an instant reaction, but you will get an episode, and Connor Newcomb as well will be here tomorrow breaking down his thoughts on the weekend as a whole, some of the front office rumblings and happenings for the Baltimore Orioles. So that is the plan as the Orioles host the Red Sox, now set for 2:35 for the first pitch. But for now, I want to say thank you for watching on YouTube. Thank you for listening on the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Luke Slabaugh, again, giving you the Orioles postcast and the postcast alone for every game this season after Orioles wins or losses. Final score today, Toronto Blue Jays 3, Baltimore Orioles 1. Thanks for watching. Have a happy Sunday.